Hey, what's up everyone, Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be talking about over-pushing, and we're going to start the video right now.
This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become. All right, so we have a athlete here on the right, and then we obviously have, Marcel Jacobs, and, really, this is the Olympic 100-meter final, and so, a lot of the best sprinters in the world here. So, when we look and we talk about over pushing, really what that has to do with is that back leg, right? And how we end up generating force off the back leg when we're going to top speed. And so we commonly see here is for athletes that have the issue with over pushing, and a lot of times it ends up being, there's a wide range of, of cues that end up happening, but it ends up just being an overemphasis on that toe off phase, right? So as we're getting to the toe off here, really focusing on being able to push off the ground and generate a lot of force off the ground at this stage, when we know that most of the force ends up being generated when that foot hits the ground, right? So this is going to be when the important moment is, when that foot hits the ground. And so you can tell, we look at the two different athletes. I know here we have a treadmill in comparison to being on a track, but you can still see, as the leg is coming through here, just being able to keep a good amount of height, especially as the leg gets more and more into hip flexion, right? And so the further the foot is able to get out in front while maintaining a good amount of hip flexion gives a great indication of how fast the athlete is, right? Because now that ends up going into horizontal forces, and I'm going to make a video that goes more in depth into horizontal force, because I think that ends up being critical when it comes to being able to get to top end speed, and that's a big differentiator between the athletes that are able to run the fastest is how much horizontal force are you creating. And so what we're seeing here is the late push off, right, or really focusing on over pushing. And so then when the leg starts to be able to come through, we get not a bad amount of hip flexion here. So this is a case where, the athlete is not slow, right? And this is going into, more in depth into the biomechanics, right? The specifics of what makes it so you can end up generating a lot of speed. And so when you see though, as that leg's getting more and more into hip flexion, and when the knee is starting to extend, right, getting in this position. So right here, we got more of knee extension, we got more knee flexion here, we got more knee flexion here on the right. And then as that leg started to extend, the foot just ends up going straight down. So instead of getting this action, right, and then being able to pull back, right, and this would be more of a pulling action, we're getting foot contact, which then requires more of a push, right? So then we can go back into this one here. Now we're gonna get more of a push action, okay? And then when the leg cycles back through, we're not able to generate very much of a pull. It just goes right down to the ground. And so once you end up hitting, right down straight to the ground here, now when the foot comes back through, we're gonna end up having more of that over push, right? And so that is just the concept behind over pushing, and where that ends up making the biggest impact is going to be being able to bring that leg back up and through, that foot up and through, right? Having great front side mechanics. So the big thing that's happening when you see somebody that's struggling with front side mechanics goes into over pushing, goes into some of those backside mechanics. So make sure that you're looking at that, and you can even see the trajectory of the foot, right? So you can see as the athlete's pushing off here, foot is going up and back before coming straight through, right? We want to be able to see, you can see with Marcel Jacobs, he's pushing off, then driving that leg straight through, right? You don't want to get stuck with that foot going back behind. As soon as that foot is off the ground, you want to be able to start bending that knee and start driving that leg through, so then the timing works out correctly, and being able to get the foot through in a time period that makes it so now you can transition into good front side mechanics and then pull down before the foot hits the ground. If your foot is hitting the ground straight vertically, right, straight up and down, then that ends up being a problem, right? We don't want to hit have the ground hitting, or the foot hitting straight down to the ground. We want to make sure that we're pulling that foot down underneath us to make it so our foot's landing more right underneath the hip, right, in opposed to landing with the foot way out in front of the hip. All right. And so, because now once that foot ends up landing more out in front of the hip, that's what's going to be a big cause of the over pushing. And a lot of this ends up going into some of the, acceleration mechanics. What are some of the things you're doing in those beginning phases to help you in acceleration? And then once you get into acceleration, now being able to get into top end speed and really being able to maximize that. And so, if you don't have the right acceleration mechanics, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to properly transition into your top end speed mechanics. And so I think being able to understand over pushing should help give you a solution to be able to potentially fix that issue and make it so then you could help your athletes in better understanding some frontside mechanics and what ends up being critical in accomplishing those frontside mechanics. So as always, if you like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. We do have a lot of things available in the description. We got the speed breakdown, speed program, really a couple different speed programs that you can be a part of, one with breakdowns, one without breakdowns. And so, we just want to continue to provide as much information as we can to help you in being able to run faster, right? And that's where these videos come from. There's a few things that you can get that are also free materials that could also be very beneficial. And, we are starting off with a course for coaches and also for athletes. It's going to be something that we're going to launch here in the next couple of weeks. And so I'm really excited about that. Just going to continue to provide more value for you guys, help you get a little bit faster. All right. Again, if you like the information, click that thumbs up, subscribe. That really helps. And we'll talk to you soon.